here, I'm not going to go over it right now, but this right here is a very interesting piece of paper that is a giant surprise that some of you may have heard about, may not have heard about it, and I'm going to leave it till the end so you're like anticipating something. But this right here is some of the biggest news ever broken, in my personal opinion, in healthcare. Okay? So I'll go over that in a few minutes. Excellent. So I got to lead you in a little bit, right? Good. So cholesterol and heart health. You are being fed a lot of information out there via the medicine system, via doctors, via TV, commercials, ads, you name it. And a lot of it is totally false, and you have to find out what is actually true. So cardiovascular disease is skyrocketing, if you didn't know already. It's one of the big three. We always talk about the big three: cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer. All three are skyrocketing, but cardiovascular disease is just flying through the roof. And I always ask or tell anybody in a seminar is you most likely know somebody, whether it's yourself, friend or family member, or someone connected to you that either has cardiovascular disease, has had a heart attack, or has had open heart surgery, right? Yes. I mean, I know I have. I'm in healthcare, and I have family members that have had it. So it's out there. It's happening constantly. I want to give you the truths and the myths about what it really is, why it's happening, okay? Because it's like anything today. You know, we have the internet. And the internet, I believe, is one of the greatest inventions ever found. But at the same time, you have to filter through what is real and what is not real, because it's not regulated, right? That's kind of one of the good things about it, is it's not regulated. So you have to do the research on your own. So anything you hear me talk about tonight, go home, Google, research all this stuff as well, because I want you to be educated about it. Does that make sense? Excellent. Cholesterol gets such a bad rap, it's not funny. I am constantly getting blood work in from patients that I don't take it here, but I get it in from patients, and doctors are throwing them on this medication, that medication. They want this number down, they want this number up, and it's just all over the place. And I want to teach you some of the stuff about what you really should be looking for, okay? So what is cholesterol? That's a big one. And cholesterol is directly tied to heart health, but then there's also another whole aspect of heart health that we have to go over as well, okay? So I have you some notes here. You all have those. Go over those with me as well. I'm going to kind of brief you on them, but you can take notes as well as you're going. So it's a substance present in all animal cells and body fluids. It's potent antioxidant. So antioxidant, I think of kind of like going in and clearing out all the rust, okay? Fights free radicals in the blood and helps heal arterial damage. So the numbers below will tell you some of the different things it does. So each and every cell in the body needs cholesterol for the cellular structure. So keep in mind of what you've been hearing out there in the media, drug commercials, etc. And what do they tell you? They want your cholesterol down, right? So you have trillions of cells in the human body. Your body is made up of cells. Guess what every single cell needs for its structure? Cholesterol. So immediately my brain, the logic part of my brain goes to, if every cell needs it, why should we be lowering it so much? Right? Interesting. We're going to go more into that. Strengthens the immune system by communication at a cellular level to protect us from cancer. That sounds important, right?
Oh my goodness.
1/2 of the brain is made of saturated fat for nervous system function. So you know your brain and the nerves in your body, it's all fat. That's what it's made up of, okay?
Wow.
Do you think we might need some fat and cholesterol in our body? Yeah. Exactly. Saturated fat is needed to make hormones like testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, and others. It's a precursor, meaning you have to have it for hormone production and regulation. And anybody else ever noticed out there that we're having a massive hormone imbalance problems, both men and women? I mean, the biggest thing now for guys is low testosterone or low T. It's like every other billboard. And they're out there injecting people up with synthetic testosterone to bring it up. And then females, there's an infertility clinic on every corner.
Yeah.
We didn't have this 10, 20, 30 years ago, did we?
No.
Skyrocketing. Hormone balances are off. Females come in constantly. Hormones are off. Thyroid is off. Your thyroid is off. Your hormones are off. Never fails. Women are having hot flashes very early. They're having menopause way too early. I have women coming in who are 30 years old, in their mid-30s, and say do you think I'm starting menopause because I'm having hot flashes? Well, you shouldn't be. That's a problem. Premenopause, that came out of nowhere. That wasn't supposed to happen. It's funny, every once in a while I go back to, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I have a couple health people that I listen to, and they actually, it's kind of cool. They actually correlate a lot of today's health stuff back to like biblical scriptures. And it's funny because they talk about all these biblical names way, way back who lived to 100, 200, 900 years old, right? And do you think they were on cholesterol medication? Right? This is what's happening. Our ages are getting lower. Our bodies are breaking down so much faster. So much faster. And they were having babies way past 100 years old. We're done at 40 now, right? That's what they say. Not that that's true, but now you're being told if you have babies after 40, you're very high risk.
Yeah.
They just call it high risk. So how do we go from having babies at a couple hundred years old to 40 years old? We're going backwards, right? This is not good. So cholesterol is needed to transport fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, and K. That just means they require fat, okay? You have to have cholesterol for that, okay? Lungs cannot function without saturated fat. Saturated fat helps stop inflammation. The majority of people that walk into this office and any other medical office out there, any office that has a doctor or practitioner in it, usually one of the top 3 reasons they go in, they may not say this, but this is what it is, they're dealing with inflammation. Anybody with pain, inflammation. So did you know saturated fat will actually help bring down inflammation? So this is all information you're not being told every day, but this is actually how it really works. Exactly. 90% of mother's milk is made out of fat for good brain and nerve development. Anybody heard the word colostrum?
Yes.
So colostrum is technically nature's perfect food. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Loaded with fat. So a baby when first born, all they get is basic colostrum. There's very little breast milk in it. It's mostly all colostrum. Why? Because first and foremost, you're loading them up with fat. They're trying to put weight on, but also that fat helps them grow. Their nervous system is growing. Their nervous system, so I teach my patients as chiropractic, in the chiropractic world, your nervous system is your immune system. Okay, we don't need to inject them up with a bunch of toxic chemicals. Mm-hmm. We need to feed their body. If you give them fat, colostrum, and if a mother has trouble breastfeeding, there's other ways around that. We can still get those things, get them in the baby, because you're building up their entire immune system. Mm-hmm. Wow. We need to go back to that. But again, today with everything that's going on in the world, we have women, unfortunately, not because they're trying not to, but we have women who are unable to even breastfeed. Their body doesn't produce anymore. That's not normal. People think, well, my body just doesn't produce. No, every female body is built to produce breast milk. If it's not, there's a reason why that's happening. We need to find out why that's not happening. And if you can't, okay, we'll find ways around that, because ultimately I want to get that baby what the baby needs. Does that make sense? Yes. Now you hear a lot about blood work. I can get blood work taken. I have no problem with taking that. The problem I have with blood work is many things, actually. Blood work is an average. So they take everyone in society and they put down a number and say that's the average number. How healthy is society right now?
Not very.
So how great are those numbers going to be, you think, as they continue to go through, right? Also, blood work is one period in time. That's it. It's a snapshot at that very moment. Blood is constantly changing. Do you know a blood cell, living blood cell, life cycle? 90 days. A lot can happen in 90 days in blood work. So I'm not opposed to blood work. I'll get it if I need to. I just don't put all my weight into it. I don't think it's the thing, the be-all, end-all. And there's a lot of other tests today you can do that are actually even technically more accurate than blood tests. There's also living blood tests now, which you can get. They're a little bit more expensive. They're a little harder to get, but you can actually get living blood tests. So they actually test the blood alive. Because if you get a standard blood test, that blood is dead. They kill it off. So that's what you see at that very moment. Now, as it relates to cholesterol, okay? HDLs, LDLs, triglycerides, total cholesterol. You've heard all these words, right? HDL is good cholesterol. So a good way to remember it is H for healthy cholesterol. LDL, technically not. Now, there is a lot of breakthroughs going on right now showing how those facts are changing a little bit. Okay, they're learning more and more about it. I'm not going to go into that yet tonight because there's still more to go into. But I will tell you, I am personally not in full agreement with what they want for numbers. So the big number you're hearing is they want your cholesterol, total cholesterol, they want under 200. I am not in agreement with that. Okay? One of the reasons they want that, now I'll put my conspiracy hat on, okay? I'll put my tinfoil hat on. One of the reasons they want that to happen is under 200 is the magic number. Do you know what comes in at under 200? Medications. Statins. Anybody heard of statin drugs? Okay. So right now the pharmaceutical companies are in a big battle. Why are they in a big battle? Because people are starting to learn what statins really do to the body. And this isn't something that's, off the mainstream. Even mainstream news is having to report it now because what's happening is we're having a lot of deaths correlated with statin drugs, and they can't ignore it anymore. What happens is one of the number one side effects of statin medications is weak muscle. Well, what's the most important muscle in the body? Technically, the heart. So once you go on a statin medication, you're weakening the heart immediately. So we're trying to build up the cardiovascular system and make your cholesterol better, but yet we're giving a medication that actually weakens potentially the most important heart or important muscle in your body, which is the heart. Does that sound backwards to anybody else? Yeah. And they're trying to lower cholesterol as low as they possibly can go. We just went through some facts, right? Do we want to lower our cholesterol that far?
No.
Now, if I have somebody come in at the 300, 400, 500 cholesterol, we might have some problems or something going on in the body. But I mean, we've had people come in at 250, 270, the picture of health.
I am 260.
Okay, so I'm not saying that's healthy for you or not. I'm just saying we would have to take a look at your body, see how it's operating, because that may be an okay number for you. And again, blood tests give us a picture of average society. Everybody's different. You're going to have a different number than she is. You have a different number than she is. She might operate at 260, you might operate at 220 and be perfectly fine. But we're trying to box everyone into these, or put everyone into these boxes and say, well, this is what everyone is. That's not how the human body works. Everyone is very different. So I'm very careful with those numbers because what happens is, as we see those numbers go lower, we also see brain cognitive function decrease. Okay, statin drugs, brain decrease, big time. Okay, they're already seeing it. So you can see things leading to Alzheimer's, dementia long term because the brain can't function anymore. It needs fat.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
that's why saturated fat is so important, and we're getting close to getting this information out here, this news. Okay. All right. Now, does meat cause heart disease? This is obviously a very controversial topic. So I am an advocate of meat, but I'm not an advocate of just any meat. Okay? I'm not an advocate of going to your regular grocery store and picking meat off the counter. Now, why did they have a big controversial thing around meat? Because people were getting sick. Well, why are they getting sick? Do you know what's in the meat in your local stores? Conventional meat. We have antibiotics, we have hormones, a plethora of medications that they're giving this cattle. And have you ever seen how the cattle was raised? Very poorly. So, can we not eat meat, or should we not be eating the stuff they're injecting into the meat? Now, I will tell you, if you go to grass-fed, free-range meats, it's an entirely different story. Your body can handle those. Now, I think Americans, I do personally believe Americans eat too much meat. We consume far too much in amounts. The paleo craze is huge today. Everyone heard of paleo?
Yes.
Okay. I know people who are in the paleo craze, and they put 2 T-bone steaks on their plate at night and eat 2 steaks, and they say that they're healthy, they're paleo. Paleo actually goes back to caveman. Like that's what it correlates to. I'm sorry, but cavemen did not run out and eat 2 steaks a night. Cavemen they scavenged, they hunted, and if they're lucky, they got something that day, and then it had to be split up amongst the tribe. They weren't eating 2 T-bones a night each. Okay, there was survival back then. So this whole paleo thing of, oh, let's go back to our cavemen. The cavemen probably ate a couple ounces of meat every couple days, and then they were also having to scavenge for fruits and seeds and nuts and everything else. They were not pounding down pounds of meat. So I kind of sway away from the crowd that is just meat all day long. I think you need probably a couple ounces a day that can be beneficial for you, but you don't need to be eating New York strips and the big ribeyes all the time. Now it's not going to hurt you to go eat a ribeye. I'm just saying you're not going to do that every single night because your kidneys are not going to be very happy with you. That is a lot of protein to break down in the body. But free-range grass-fed meats are fantastic for you. Just really, really good. Now, it comes up, people don't want to eat meat. They may be vegetarian, vegan. That's fine. I will tell you, though, any vegetarian, vegan that I've ever really met that was doing it properly. When I say properly, I think I've only met 1 or 2 in my lifetime that have been doing it properly. By properly means actually eating vegetables, not grains and pastas and cereals and everything else. So you don't usually call them vegetarians, I call them grainitarians. Because they're filling up on pastas and breads and everything else all day long, and they're eating a cucumber at night and calling themselves vegetarian. No. I mean, one of the most famous vegetarians in the history of the world was Gandhi. Gandhi was not eating bread and pasta all day long. He was actually eating vegetables, and that's why he was so healthy. But even vegetarians today, the soil has been so depleted out there that we're not getting everything we really need. And what happens is the majority of them have to take some type of supplementation to keep up digestion, things like that. You hear B12 a lot with vegetarians, okay? So that's why I think, and anybody heard of Dr. Mercola?
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Mercola is very, very popular, very famous. I met him actually a couple months ago at a seminar, and Mercola used to be a raw food eater. He is no longer. Dr. Mercola still eats meat. We actually talked to him a little bit on the side, and he said, as we're looking at this physiology of the human body, I'm not seeing how he can't get around, and he doesn't eat it every day. He eats like a couple ounces every couple days just to get those vitamins and minerals in his body because he knows his body needs it. So I'm not saying he's the god of health and nutrition. I'm just saying he knows a lot about it, and so I go to his stuff for advice as well and for education and knowledge, and it does help to have a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to have it all the time, but it helps to have a little bit. So the meat thing got thrown way off because antibiotics, hormones. The cattle today is not taken care of, and we're taking in a lot of hormones, a lot of antibiotics. I see teenage kids now. I mean, we've had records of people, girls that are 12 years old, who are having children. 12. Do you know why? That's not supposed to happen either. Our biology wasn't supposed to do that. But what happens is we're loading them up with hormones from the cattle and the milk. Now you've forced their body into premature development. Okay, that happens. Or you see the boys today who are 8 feet tall. That wasn't supposed to happen either. We're pushing hormones into their body and artificially growing their bodies too big. Okay? So I just want everyone to see that and know that's fantastic for you.
Yeah. Some are 80, 20, or 85.
Yeah, there's lean meats and more fatty meats, and there's percentages in 80-20. Honestly, in my opinion, if you're going for grass-fed meats, as long as you're in that world, you're doing pretty well. If you want to get even more detail-oriented regarding meats, I tend to go for the fattier cut. I do. I like lean meats, they're okay, but I like fat more. And I know with the fat, I'm getting some of those essential nutrients that I need that I'm not getting with the other one. My daughter is 3 years old, and she'll say, cow fat. I want cow fat. Or bacon. She loves bacon. Loves it. But you have to make sure you're doing organic, everything else. Because I went to Publix the other day, and my mom was in town. I was kind of running around the last minute, and they had a whole section filled with bacon. Now, I don't just take any bacon. I'm looking for organic bacon because I don't want the nitrates, the sugars, all that different stuff. There had to be, no joking, over 30 variations of bacon, which I didn't even know was possible. There was one I had to search through. And they had a little bit of cane sugar in it, which I dealt with because I needed it last minute. But that was the only one that didn't have all the nitrates, nitrites, and chemicals injected into it. Everything else had a bunch of additives in it that were really going to not do well for your body. So yeah, you have to be very, very careful with meats. Now, how do you prevent heart disease? So before we go into this, I want to give you a little background on what heart disease actually is. Because what we've been told for years and years is you eat too much fat, and the fat gets lodged in your arteries, and the arteries clog up, and you have a heart attack. Okay, partially true, not completely true. What happens is, think of your arteries as hoses, right? So, did the fat cause the cardiovascular disease and the heart disease, or was it something else? Well, the fat was there, yes, but the problem started before that. What happened is inflammation. We started adding sugar to our diets. And what happened was, sugar, as soon as it touches your mouth, like processed white refined sugar, the whole body inflames. You may, in the beginning, you don't notice it, not until later. But it inflames the body. What happens with the cardiovascular system is, those little arteries, those tubes or hoses, they have a couple different layers to them, right? About 2 or 3 layers. What happens is, the inflammation, those little arteries start inflaming every single time you're putting the sugar in your body. Over a period of time, if you put enough inflammation through the artery, guess what happens to the inside of that hose? It tears. So think of a hose with a couple layers to it, and the inside of the hose has a little tear in it. Now, what if I keep pushing stuff through that, like a thick fluid, like an oil or something like that? It's supposed to be smooth all the way through there, right? Now you have a little jagged edge there. What happens to the debris as it goes by? It's going to catch. So you have all this cholesterol and fat going through the bloodstream. It starts catching onto the tear. And now over a period of time, it starts catching more and more. Now you're building a fatty deposit in there. So when a person has the heart attack or has open heart surgery, they go in and they can see those deposits there. And they then said, well, fat causes cardiovascular disease. No, it doesn't. What causes cardiovascular disease is the inflammation from the processed refined sugar. Because the fat's going to be going through there all the time. But if you have smooth borders, no problem. The problem was the arterial tear in the hose. And that's what causes heart disease. Sugar is what causes heart disease. Now, I will take you to this. It's a blank front, but the headline, and I printed the rest out so we can go over that. The headline is, 50 years ago, the sugar industry quietly paid scientists to point blame at fat. Now, I will tell you, I go through a lot of websites, a lot of different websites. I don't look at a lot of mainstream media because if they open their mouth, they're lying. So I go to a lot of alternative websites. But I will tell you, this article came out, I would say, a little over a month ago, and this wasn't on all the alternative news sites. This was on mainstream news sites. Why? Because, let me find it here, it was the New England Journal of Medicine. So we're talking about, this is no joke. You know, in the world of medicine, New England Journal of Medicine is a big hitter, okay? So back in 1967, Harvard, not just a small school, Harvard scientists were paid by the sugar industry. At the time, they paid about $66,000, which today is 50 grand. They paid scientists 50 grand a piece at that time to fraudulently write up their research. And they flipped it. They knew at that time that sugar caused heart disease. They got paid to write it the opposite. Fat causes heart disease and sugar is perfectly fine because they were paid by the sugar industry so they could sell sugar to America. Because we started a war in South America to steal their sugar from them. They brought it over here, we processed and refined it, made it really cheap, and then everyone got addicted to it, and they started selling massive amounts of sugar to America. And Harvard scientists lied about it for money. And this is mainstream news and in the New England Journal of Medicine and Internal Medicine. This was about, I want to say a couple months ago now. It was actually really, really big because, I mean, everyone carried it, which was unbelievable. Because that literally, this flipped everything. This was 50 years ago. We were told 50 years ago that fat was bad for us. We're in 2016. 66 years ago, we were told a lie that literally changed healthcare. Because how many statins do we sell today? That's how big that is. And so that, and again, go look it up. That's mainstream. This was, I printed this from NPR, National Public Radio, but New York Times carried it. Everyone carried it. So this is what we're dealing with. And now we know saturated fats, so things like coconut oil, actually decrease your risk for heart disease. The more sugar you eat, the increase your risk. So how do you prevent heart disease? Eat whole unprocessed foods. So going back to nature, going back to the ground, the soil, actual foods, animals, if you want to, organic, grass-fed as much as possible. Eat beef, lamb, game, organ meats, poultry, eggs from pasture-fed animals. So my background, my cultural background is I'm actually Native American, both sides of my family. So it's funny because as you get a little older, you start taking a little bit more interest in your background. And so I started looking into it a little bit, and Indians were on the right track. Let me tell you, Indians knew what they were doing. But unfortunately, we came through and took some land from them, and they also suppressed the information the Indians had because they were growing some amazing stuff. I actually was just learning the other night about some corn and vegetables that they were growing. Maybe I'll bring that to another seminar, but they were using agriculture like no one had ever used it before. And they were getting in massive yields, totally organic, and feeding basically everybody. So really good stuff. But Indians, it's very interesting. The amount of stuff that they produced, they all ate organ meats. We wouldn't eat organ meats today. So I went to a seminar a couple years ago, and we were talking about Standard Process, one of the companies we use. And if you look on the label, you'll see organ meats on the labels. And the running joke was, even us in healthcare and holistic healthcare today, if you put a kidney on my plate, I'm probably not eating it, right? Our tastes have changed a little bit. However, if you go back far enough, Native Americans, actually up in Alaska as well, way, way, way up in the Arctic, right? They would kill stuff, and they would eat everything. Everything. I mean, meat was there, but they ate the organ meats, they ate the fat, they ate everything. Because they knew, way back then, that they were getting nutrients out of those things. And we've totally gone away from that. Totally gone away from that. Amazing, right? So you have to look what our civilizations did previous, because they actually had the truths. Consume full-fat milk products with pasture-fed cows. So I'm a dairy on and off type of dairy person. Personally, if you ask me, don't go to the store and buy dairy off the shelf. It's a mess. But if you're going to drink dairy, obviously grass-fed as much as possible. I'm a raw dairy advocate, even though that's not allowed in the state of Florida. You can't buy it for human consumption, but you can buy it for pet consumption, just so you know. But we are animals, just so you know. But I will tell you, if you're going to do dairy, so things like kefir, fermented dairy, yogurt, fantastic for the gut. Okay? Your gut loves that stuff. Builds up the probiotics, builds up the gut bacteria. Butter. Butter is one of the best things you can eat. Grass-fed butter should be in every refrigerator at home, right? It's delicious, too. My favorite, I actually don't love always the taste of raw butter. It's a little too gamey for me. We actually use Kerrygold in the store.
Yeah.
Irish butter.
Yeah.
I love Kerrygold. Yeah, it's a green or silver package. It's delicious. We love that one. Yes.
When we were growing up, we had a cow,
Cow. Yes.
grass-fed,
Yes.
that my father milked every
Yep.
morning and the night. And so we made our own butter, our own buttermilk.
Yeah.
And everything we made, and drank the raw milk.
Absolutely.
And I would always go and steal the cream off the raw milk.
Yes.
I don't care what my mother said about me not doing it, I'd still do it.
I grew up on a farm for a couple years, and it wasn't my farm, but I grew up on a farm. And literally, when you went to the refrigerator, there was a old Kool-Aid pitcher, but it wasn't Kool-Aid. you had to go down every day or every couple days, and they scooped out the milk from the vat. It was pure. There was nothing. They didn't do anything to it. It was unadulterated. They scooped it out, and that was milk for the couple days of the week. And it's funny because my daughter now, she drinks cream in the morning, not milk. She will only drink half and half. She drinks like half a glass, and I try not to give her too much because I'm trying not to clog her system up too much. But she won't go to bed without cream, and she won't start the morning without cream and butter. She will literally go into the refrigerator now that she can open doors, and she gets the butter. Every once in a while, you'll catch her with a thing of butter, and she's eating off the stick of butter. Just butter, just butter. Yes. So and let her go. She's building up her immune system, nervous system, and brain. So I let her go, and I just buy more butter. So use animal fats, especially butter. And then on the back of your notes, traditional oils like extra virgin olive oil, sesame oil, flax oils, coconut oils, and palm oils. Expeller pressed, cold pressed, organic. I will tell you, I am a firm believer now from a olive oil standpoint. If you cook with it a little bit, it's not going to do any harm. I don't believe so, but I prefer that just like on salads. They found out that heating it up now a little bit can change it, so you don't necessarily want to do that. Use coconut oil for cooking. It's the best cooking oil you can find out there. But yeah, olive oil is very good for that. Coconut oil is phenomenal. I mean, really, everyone should be eating a couple teaspoons or tablespoons of that a day to start. That's just going to build up your nervous system, which is fantastic. Meat stocks. So bone broth, chickens, beef, lamb, fish, fantastic. There's actually protocols out there now people are using to build and heal gut, just bone broths. Because what happens when you boil that for long term, it pulls all the minerals out of the bone and the marrow, and that literally heals the body. So really, really good stuff there. Make your own salad dressings, raw vinegar, extra virgin olive oil. So just make sure you're getting your fats, okay? Now, nutrition response testing, what we use in the office, is phenomenal because we're actually pinpointing what you need to use. And how I found out about this was I was very unhealthy at one point. So in my mid-20s, I was traveling around the country, working in the sports world, which was a lot of fun, but I didn't know anything about health then that I know now. And at the time, I was dealing with several different symptoms. I was dealing with major heart attack symptoms. So I'm like 25 years old, 26 years old, and I'm having heart attack symptoms, as in chest tightness, pain, arm, shoulder, you name it. Massive, massive symptoms. Like literally to the point where there were nights I went to bed feeling like I had an elephant on my chest, and I didn't know if I was going to wake up. That's how bad I felt. Major anxiety, mild depression. I wouldn't call it full-blown depression yet, but mild depression, feeling really, really poorly. However, I ate sugar around the clock. I always joke with my patients, especially the ones first starting off when they come in and they bring me a food log and they circle the sugars and we count them up. And I think the highest I've had so far starting was 30 sugars in a week. And they felt horrible about it. I said, don't you worry. You didn't come anywhere close to what I was doing. Because from the start in the morning till the end of the evening, it was sugar throughout the day. Sugar with every meal. To the point where midnight, 1 a.m., because I'd stayed up late when I was younger, constant sugar. It was a roller coaster for me. You know the blood sugar roller coaster people go on? I was on that roller coaster all day long.
You were overweight at that time.
I was not overweight. No, my metabolism kept up with me at that point. But I will tell you, if I hadn't changed, I would not be as thin and svelte as I am today. I weighed probably 145 to 148 up through college. The problem was I wasn't gaining weight. I was destroying my thyroid. And you know how they say your nerves? My anxiety was through the roof. I only started gaining weight after we had the baby because I took on the what do they call it? The sympathy pounds with my wife. I didn't eat bad food. I just ate all the time, constantly. But through my mid-20s, I was in bad shape. And I remember one day saying, I need to get this figured out because I have a long line of family history of heart disease. Now, at that time, I was very scared about it. So I went to the doctor, and all they told me was, well, we think you have, low iron. That's all they told me. Sorry, low iron is not why you have heart attack symptoms. But then they also asked me, do you have anxiety? I was like, yeah, horrible anxiety. So they sent me to a psychiatrist. Oh, no. Worst mistake you could ever do. So I went there, didn't know at the time, went there after 2 visits, and I wouldn't call them visits. It was like, sit down and tell me about your feelings kind of thing. And they gave me a questionnaire, 10 questions, multiple choice. And I filled that out, and I ranked 98th percentile of ADD, ADHD. Looking back, the questions were rigged completely, totally rigged. Like, if someone walks into a room, do you look up? Yeah. Well, you must be distracted. No. Someone walked into a room, I heard the door shut, so I wanted to see who was coming in. Questions like that there was no way out of the question. You're going to answer it the way you wanted to. They sent me home with Adderall and Zoloft, which we now know are essentially legal forms of meth and cocaine. Yes, so your psychotropic drugs, just so you know, are hardcore narcotics. And we're putting children on those today, under 5 years old even. They are narcotics. Look that up, okay? So they put me on those. I went home. I took them. And then that night, the running joke is I stayed up till about 4 a.m. cleaning my house, my apartment at the time. Ask my wife sometime while she's around here. I despise cleaning. So that is not normal for me to be. I felt strung out. Now, I've never done a drug in my life. So I know feeling like that was not normal. Some kind of drug. Something was happening. That's not how my brain works. I took myself off after about a day and a half. Now, my disclaimer is do not take yourself off psychotropic drugs. I was only doing it for about a day and a half. It did not have time to sit in my system. If you've been on them for years, do not take yourself off. They're very dangerous drugs, and that has to be under proper visitation, proper medical service, etc., because major withdrawal problems. Okay, they're very, very dangerous drugs just to come off of. So anyway, moving forward, I was still having the problems. I actually moved to Orlando. I went to a cardiovascular cardiologist exam, and I was a little scared. And I kept telling my wife, this is family history. Now today, family history, I have a different view on that. We can change our genetics. It's lifestyle related. But at the time, I went to the cardiologist because I was worried. They sent me in there. I did their stress test. I ran on a treadmill. I sprinted on a treadmill. I had an irregular heartbeat when I walked in. But when I exercised, I was sprinting on their treadmill. My irregular heartbeat went totally normal. I went into the doctor's office after that. He came in. He stayed there about 2 minutes. Never mentioned the fact that I just exercised and my heartbeat went from irregular to regular. Never mentioned anything about diet. Didn't ask me about my sugar consumption. Instead, put down beta blockers. Take the beta blockers. Instead, I started radically changing my food, what I was eating. At that time was when we found nutrition response testing. So I love chiropractic, but there are a couple of things. Chiropractic was handling the majority of my problems, but it wasn't handling this heart attack type thing going on, right? I had to figure out why. Well, you're eating sugar from the morning to the evening, all day long. Sugar destroys all minerals in the body. It depletes the body of minerals. The best example I can give of that is osteoporosis. And the reason I use osteoporosis is because of minerals. Your bone is made of 3 things: water, protein, and minerals. Calcium, magnesium, manganese, all these minerals. It's actually less calcium than most people think. Calcium is not the big bone builder everyone talks about. But what happens is you have a mineral-dense bone. When you put sugar into the body, sugar has nothing in it. They processed and wiped everything out, and they bleached it to white. When you put it in, the sugar has to process itself somehow. What does it do? It pulls minerals out of the bone to help process it. Over a period of time, you have now what's called osteoporosis, because you've whittled the bone down. You've sucked everything out of it. Okay, so when you hear those women or men who have fallen and broken a hip, no, they didn't. They broke a hip and fell. The bone was so brittle that it actually broke, causing them to fall. They didn't fall and break the hip. It's actually the opposite way. That's why osteoporosis is so widespread today. But I was pouring sugar into my body, which was giving me heart attack symptoms, giving me mild to moderate depression, giving me severe anxiety. So not until I actually handled that I actually get to the cause of my issues. And as soon as I started doing that, as soon as I started nutrition response testing and actually changing my food, my lifestyle, my diet, literally within weeks, my superficial right on top symptoms disappeared. I haven't had a heart attack symptom since. I haven't even had anything remotely close to pain or tightness or anything like that in my chest. Just literally dissipated away. Got rid of my irregular heartbeat. Actually, it went from, I used to have, so I had what's called a preventricular contraction. Anybody ever heard of that? So ventricle means the large chamber of my heart. Literally, at the time, would skip a beat every 2 beats. And I don't mean skip a beat like, okay, just get, I'm talking stopped and then started back up. To the point where my wife, when she first took my pulse and I told her about it, she looked at me, her face was like white as a ghost. She's like, your heart is stopping. Do you know that? I'm like, yeah, I've been dealing with that my whole life. I went from like every 2, maybe 3 beats to a complete stop and then start back up to, I think the longest I've had now is probably between 100 and 150 beats before it's a slight little pause. I'm still working on it. But now we went from 2 to way, way, way down the road. Now it's just boom, 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 boom. And if I exercise and put more into it, it actually totally dissipates out. So I'm building that back up. So when people say it's genetic and they'll never get away from it, that's not necessarily true. We need to work on building the heart back up. Okay, so there's a couple of slides here that I always like to go through, and one is very important. Now, we're going to talk about sugar, right? Sugar. Everyone loves it, but yet it's horrible for us, right? Okay, so sugar literally pulls nutrients out of our body, out of our organs. When that happens, our organs start dysfunctioning, just like the bone, remember? Now, bone is just another organ. It doesn't necessarily work like a liver or a heart, but is technically an organ. You're pulling minerals out of the bone. Deficiency happens, right? Your organ starts to dysfunction. Then you start getting symptoms. And then what do? We pour more sugar on it because we get addicted to it. Did you know, also scientifically proven, you can look at, I think you can look it up on YouTube now, they put 2 brain scans together. They hooked up 2 brains, 2 of them together. One they put on cocaine, one they put on white refined sugar. Guess what? Same brain centers lit up. It's essentially almost the same thing. Only a couple molecules off, and it lights up the same brain center. They have us hooked on processed refined sugar as if it was cocaine. This spiral continues to go round and round and round, and that is the #1 reason why we have cholesterol problems, heart health problems, major disease processes skyrocketing. Because sugar is destroying our bodies.
Dr. D.
Naomi.
Oh, thank you. There's sugar, white sugar.
Yes.
And the fruit sugar.
Yeah, totally different things.
Oh, would you tell me
Yes.
about the good things about fruit sugar?
Fruit sugar can help you. Fruit sugar. Now, there are some people out there who are very sensitive to fruit sugar. But the reason they're sensitive usually to fruit sugar is because they've had so much processed refined sugar in their body over a period of time that they became sensitive to anything sugar. Like, for example, in my case, when I was trying to get better, it took me about 3 years before I could actually eat sugar again because I was so beat up by it. I couldn't even do stevia, and stevia is not sugar.
Oh.
Do you know why? My body was so sensitive because I was putting so much sugar in my body. Anything that tasted sweet to me triggered all that stuff. Anything.
Even fruit.
I didn't eat
Stevia.
I didn't eat anything for about roughly 3 years. And now, when I eat now, I eat some fruit and stuff like that. If I go too far, even on fruit, I gotta back off.
Because I've been told by Dr. Palmer that I had to back off of berries,
Yeah.
blueberries.
Yeah,
grapes.
because it doesn't mean forever. It means you're just a little sensitive to some of the high fruit sugars. That's all.
And I have never, my whole life, eaten a lot of white sugar.
Just the way your body is. You're a very clean body. Sometimes when your body gets really, really clean, we can be sensitive to some of that stuff.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, sometimes that happens.
Because I've been a raw foodist mostly.
Yes.
For my whole life.
Sometimes that happens, yeah. So everyone's a little bit, that's why I say everybody's system is a little different. You have to be really, really cautious of that. If anybody in here has never been to the office before, do me a favor, you have a blue folder with you, right? There should be a sugar quiz in there. Let's see if you see a sugar quiz in there. Okay, good. Do me a favor, just take a couple seconds, fill that out. It's really, really fast, okay? Be honest about it, okay? Just a yes or no, so you go really fast. I'll just give you a couple minutes real quick. Yes, blue folder. Some of them have it as well. And again, I'll warn you, if you feel like you're scoring poorly on the test, I scored very poorly on the test when I first took it. I was one of those people that, and I could still do this, I don't because it's not good for me, but I would go to the store. You know Ben & Jerry's ice cream? That stuff's not cheap, right? $5, $7 a little, I think, is it a pint? I would go, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs, but I could spend $6 a night and mow through one of those a night.
That's good.
Easily. Easily. So I say that because I didn't score well on this when I first started. I actually, when I first was doing this, I would lie to my wife, a white lie. I would go to the store to get something that night, and I would buy like a bag of Oreos. I love Oreo cookies. And I would put them under my seat in my car. And I have a handful on the way back to home, but I didn't take any inside because I wanted to know I had it. So I would have little snacks, places in my car, because we become junkies, right? I mean, we kind of like, we look down on the people who are on the side of the road having problems or homeless or something like that, and you can tell they're on drugs, but yet we're the same thing with sugar. If I'm sneaking and hiding Oreo cookies under my car seat or taking ice cream or candy bars, that's no different than any other junkie out there. I'm just doing it with a different thing. So that's how dangerous that stuff is. Now, if you did your sugar quiz, did anybody have more than 4 falses? Leo will talk. Leo and I are working together right now. If you had less than 4 falses, congratulations. That means you pretty much have a handle on it. If you have over 4 falses, raise your hand and welcome to the Sugarholics Club. There you go. See? It happens. But I will tell you, it is like an addictive drug. So it's very, very tough. What I want to show you now is, and remember, keep in mind, the more we add it in there, the more that spirals out of control, and that's why you're feeling it more and more. It really beats the body up. So with nutrition response testing, what I do in this office, what we do in this office, is we pinpoint why your body's doing this. You know, obviously we have to work with you on the sugar and other lifestyle things and food, but why is your body breaking down? Because we're surrounded by toxins on a daily basis, okay? And our body starts breaking down because our body just becomes overwhelmed with them. And with nutrition response testing, I find laser precise what's going on with your body, the actual cause of it, what's going on, to pull that out and then build your system back up, because that's ultimately how we're going to get you back to health. So I would like to demonstrate nutrition response testing, and I'm going to use you, Elise. Is that okay?
We even have chemical trails
Chemtrail? Yeah, that's
every day.
chemtrail. That's a whole other topic I'll go into some other time.
Wow.
That's when I put my tinfoil hat on.
Oh.
All my conspiracy theories that I study on the side. If you go outside during the day, just look up in the sky. The lines are not supposed to be there. They're not supposed to be there. It's not how it used to work. Okay, nutrition response testing is my way of finding out what's working well on a body and what's under stress. And very simply, I'm using her arm. Now, how am I using an arm? That sounds kind of kooky and weird, and I actually get called a witch doctor today, which is awesome. Love it. A few times a year I get called like a voodoo or witch doctor. So does Dr. Palmer. So does everybody else here. And I say, you know what? I help thousands of people get better, so you can call me whatever you want to. It's weird because we're not used to it, because modern medicine has been throwing stuff at us for 100 years. And they tell you everything that happened thousands of years before that doesn't really work, or it's pseudoscience. No, what actually happens is that used to work, and there's a reason why we implemented modern medicine and through medications and everything, because it makes a lot of money. This actually works. So it's like when you go to the doctor and they hit your knee with a hammer, right? What does your knee do? Kicks out, right? That's called a reflex. All they're doing is they're hitting a muscle near your knee that kicks out, okay? I'm doing the same thing with Alicia or anybody else I test. I'm just not using a hammer, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure going down in her arm, and she's going to apply a little bit of pressure going up just matching my pressure, okay? So go ahead and match. Excellent. Now I'm pushing down on her arm. You notice how it's not going anywhere? That's what I want. This muscle right here, the reflex muscle, is locking into place, and that's perfect, okay? I'm testing that muscle to see what it will do and what it won't do, okay? Now, I'm going to use, there's a little spot above her nose here. It's actually a meridian point for anybody who knows Chinese medicine or acupuncture. And I'm going to put my finger 2 different ways. What I'm doing here is it's not a diagnostic test in any way, shape, or form. It's to see how testable she is. One side is going to lock her muscle. One side is going to unlock her muscle. The reason I'm doing this is because later on, when I test her in a minute, if an organ is under stress, that arm is going to go down. And I want her to know what that feels like, okay? So match. Good. Your arm down a little bit. There you go. Works every time. It's very strange in the beginning that it works very well. And we're just using some polarity stuff to get the arm to go down to show her, because I want to show every patient how it works. It makes it a lot easier. Now, I'm going to test a couple organs as we go through. Most likely nothing will show up because Alicia's doing pretty well on a program, but we'll see, okay? So I'm just touching organ areas. Yeah, you got to test it. Yeah. So she's doing well right now. Now, let me show you though. Say she's having a cardiovascular issue or a heart issue or something like that. Now, I'm not calling out diseases. That's not my job. That's not what I do. I look for stress on organs. Okay, if you're having stress somewhere, when I put pressure in that area, the body's not going to like it. So say she's having a heart issue, or it would go down. That tells me, hey, we have an issue there. What's the cause of it, and how can we build that organ back up? Because it goes down there, but if I go to another organ, it's locked in place. So what I do is, okay, for the time being, I want to give her some support. So say I give her Cataplex B. So I put a supplement on her, and it locks into place. And this is a cardio support product. Locks into place. But if I took this off, it goes down. But I put that back on.
She needs that.
She would need that, correct. But if I went to another one, say I went to another one and here we go. And that goes down. Now wait, the body was just testing well for it. The body is really smart. So I'm not trying to tell the body what it needs. I'm just asking the body what it wants. And I don't like to play God, so I just want to say, hey, body's smarter than I am right now. What would it like? I'll just give it to it. This is called Orchic PMG. It's actually a testicular product. Do you have test? No testing.
No, thank you.
Her body is smart. Her body knows it doesn't need that. So if I put this on the body, it goes down. But if I go back to that cardio support.
Actually, you have a heart problem? No.
No, so she's not testing well. So in a little bit, if anybody wants scans, I'll do that and see if there's anything going on. But for her, nothing's going on. She's already a patient. We take care of her. She's doing well. But I want to show her as a demo. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Your body is smart. It knows what it needs and what it doesn't need. And all we're doing is asking it questions and finding out what particularly it does need. So as we go through here, this is for your overall health. So I'm asking about what's going on with you, but what I'm really doing is I want your whole system working properly and functioning as a whole. Have you heard of holistic medicine? Holistic medicine is also all about getting your body to work as a whole, because I have people that come in with weight issues or hormone issues or anything else like that, and they may say, well, I'm having weight issues, I just want to lose weight. Did you know your body knows what your ideal weight's supposed to be? It does. But you won't get there unless you actually take care of the whole body. Make the body work properly, the weight and other symptoms will actually melt off. That's what you have to actually find. It's very safe and natural, so we use one of the product lines we use is Standard Process. It's my favorite product line. It's actually a farm in Palmyra, Wisconsin. It's on volcanic grounds, the most nutrient-dense soil you could ever imagine. We went there on vacation one time, and the care they take for their property, they grow the vegetables on the land that they have. So it's not like they're getting it shipped in from other countries and then they process it. They take care of it. They have their own farm that does all of that stuff, which is fantastic. They're so popular that they get several offers every year from pharmaceutical companies trying to buy out the land.
Well, I guess.
What does that tell you, right? Now, I will tell you, this is design clinical nutrition. So, say you had a twin sister, right? If you both came in, I would treat you both the exact same. I would test you the same way, but a sister might have something totally different than you because you're two different bodies. Just because you look the same or just because you're the same weight or height or anything like that doesn't mean anything. I treat you as both individual bodies and test to find out what you need. You might need something totally different than she needed if you had one. Does that make sense? The oldest patient I have now is 91 years old. The youngest I have was a couple weeks, but the youngest in history that I have is my own daughter. She was being tested while she was still in the womb. And actually, we were preparing my wife before she even conceived, getting her body ready to carry the baby to optimum. So literally, my daughter's the youngest I've ever had. We tested her all the way through. We test her now that she's 3 now, but we tested her all the way through toddler, baby, everything. So I'm dealing with organic, whole food nutrition, herbs, homeopathics, all natural. I don't have to worry about other medications. I don't have to worry about everything else because I'm just giving the body what it's always wanted, which is just from the ground, right? We're going back to getting from the earth. Anybody have any gardens? Just you and I. That's what we have to go back to. We have to go back to eating from the ground again and taking supplementation that actually builds the body back up. Does that make sense? That's why I love what we do, because we're literally taking true healthcare, or we're bringing true healthcare back. We're leaving this sick care paradigm. I won't call that healthcare out there, by the way. I will not call it healthcare. Because healthcare would mean it actually does something and it helps us. And last time I checked, we were spending, wait till 2017 comes, folks. I mean, my insurance, I have catastrophic insurance that I'm actually thinking about getting rid of. Because right now, if something happened, I have to spend between $20,000 and $30,000 in a year before any medical service would be rendered to me or my family. Between premium and deductible,
Oh my gosh.
$20,000 to $30,000. Next year it's going to get even worse. It's going outrageous. And we don't use our insurance. I just pay for it to have it there. Why am I paying $20,000 to $30,000 a year for something that I don't use? And if I use it, I could see it going up. It should be going down, right? That's what's happening now. That's what they call healthcare. That is disease sickness management. That is paying thousands of dollars for medications that cost pennies to make. I had someone come in the other day that it's a medication that costs $11,000 a month.
Oh my God.
Pills cost pennies to make. They're nothing special. It's just a little chemical made up. It's pennies. They're charging hundreds and thousands of dollars for this stuff. It will collapse. I want to take you to prevention, or what is called real health care. Make sense?
Yeah.
That's what we're going towards. Do you have a question?
With increasing these heart-healthy cholesterol
Yes.
help with decreasing cancer?
Yes, technically. Now, I can't say it cures or reverses. I don't get into that world. But anytime you're bringing fats up, good fats up, you're bringing sugar down, your risk for cancer has to go down because sugar feeds cancer.
Okay.
Proven science. So yes, absolutely. Raise your fats up, raise your cholesterols up, your good saturated fats. Not soybeans and all that stuff, but good coconut oils, olive oil, stuff like that.